Katherine Graham was the first woman to own and edit the Washington Post. Initially, her father was chairman of the Federal Reserve and purchased the Post in 1933 at a bankruptcy auction.
Sold it at auction in bankruptcy on the steps of the building, and he bid on it anonymously, and he bought it for $875,000 or something like that.
My God.
And well, that was just the beginning, because it,
Yes.
it lost about $1 million a year, and that was big money then.
Oh.
I mean, you know, as they say, millions and millions do add up.
It starts to add up, right?
But he got very discouraged because there was no way we could, you know, people forget when they see the Post now how we spent 20 years of struggle. And you couldn't see your way out, you're right.
I mean, it was an amazing commitment that he was making.
And he used to get very discouraged, and my mother was wonderful about that. She used to say, you've got to keep going, and you're right, and it's wonderful. And when you look back, which I'm doing now for trying to write the memoirs, he kept building it up in the most incredible way, and great credit is due him for all that he did, because he first made a great, sort of really terrific editorial page, and then he started building up national, and he didn't have any resources, and he was selling advertising. He used to sell He used to sell papers to taxi drivers when he got in a taxi. I mean,
Before taking a job at the Post, Katherine reported on the wharf workers' strike that halted the port city's economy in 1934.
To San Francisco, it seems to me to have been a natural next step. I think you were involved in labor reporting there?
Yes.
And that seemed to fit your New Deal perspective on what needed to be done?
Yes, I was really it was a really extraordinary time, if you remember. It was the organization of this industrial unions, the CIO was being formed, and we all thought everything Roosevelt stood for was what we wanted. It was the free world and the ability to organize and all that. And so when I was typing away at Miss Sincere at her typewriter, sort of club notes, and the labor reporter for the San Francisco News, which was the afternoon Scripps Howard paper, was sitting next to me at his desk, and he said, "I hear you're interested in labor problems." And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, well, there are going to be two big strikes or lockouts, and would you like to do my legwork? And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Well, the first one is the warehousemen." And so that was the warehousemen were being locked out of the whole waterfront. And so he sent me to follow. They had a hot car, so-called, because a railroad car had been loaded by strikebreakers. And what they wanted was one union with all these different warehouses, which were picking them on them one by one. And so they were sending the hot car up and down the waterfront. And I followed them.
Born June 16, 1917, and married Phil Graham and had 4 children. Katherine's father gave his son-in-law the Post, and he owned it until his suicide in 1963, and Katherine took over his role in the newspaper. She was a publisher from 1969 to 1979, and chairwoman of the board from 1971 to 1991. Along with her influence on the Post, she was the first female Fortune 500 CEO in 1972. Under Graham's leadership, the Post reported on the Watergate scandal, creating widely available news and truth for Americans. While Graham brought necessary information to the public, she was adamant about protecting the country and monitoring what was published in the media. In an interview, Graham said, "All bets are off when it comes to keeping secret evidence of unacknowledged crime committed in government office. Information the people have a right to know, but has been hidden or denied until trust in the government's word has all but vanished." Alongside continually promoting gender equality within her own workplace. Katherine Graham deserves to be in the U.S. Hall of Fame because of her accomplishments with furthering gender equality, but more notably, she kept Americans informed during times of uncertainty for the country and herself included. but also keeping American safety in mind while publishing her articles.